place after midnight, which if you know anything about what transpires, is it is illegal to do that in Judaism, because every person is entitled to legal rights, especially a rabbi. So where's he taken? He's taken first to Annas. Annas is the real power behind Judaism. Annas is Caiaphas' father-in-law. He's sort of retired, but he pulls the strings, and nothing happens without his permission. Immediately he has to report to Annas. He gets slapped around and yelled around a little bit, but things escalate when officially goes through official channels. About 1 a.m, he's taken to Caiaphas. Caiaphas begins an illegal nighttime trial. Now you must understand, in Judaism it is illegal to have a trial at nighttime because it is not fair. Who's the judge? Where are the witnesses? How can you call your witnesses in? You can bring anything you want up against a person in the middle of the night. It was illegal. I think even in the Passion they draw that out. One of the members of the Sanhedrin says, "What is this travesty going on? A trial at night?" As if aghast. How are we participating in illegal activity? Blindfold, spitting, the abuse starts to escalate. Now you know when he was in the garden, when the soldiers came for him, they weren't very kind to him. When he surrendered himself willfully to them, didn't resist, they didn't stop this. After they whacked him over the head a few times and then bound him in the chains, you know how they used to bind you in the tough chains, so you really couldn't get out, you couldn't move your hands. So he remains in these chains on his feet for these hours of this ridiculous trial. Then, to make it appear that it looks legal on the surface, by the following morning we have a perfunctory trial where he's officially condemned in front of everyone else for blasphemy. So if anybody says Jesus never claimed to be God, well, obviously you've not read the scriptures, because it's very clear what the Jews thought he was claiming. If he's claiming to be God, if he's condemned for blasphemy. But he's being whipped by this temple guards. We know that he was spit upon, slapped in the face by the guards. More of an insult. But anybody who's been punched in the face, I don't think... I think we sometimes miss the little vulgarities that are involved in this as well. Well, okay, the Roman trial. When did it take place? April 7th. The Jewish calendar, it's Nisan 14. Pilate declares Jesus innocent. But he abuses him anyway. This is classic Roman power. So what's he do? You're innocent, but I'll beat you around anyway. Tell you what, I don't want to deal with this problem. I'm going to send you over to Herod. Why? Because you're a Jew. He's in charge of the Jews. He's the king of the Jews. Is really Herod. Go over and see Herod. He's an idiot anyway, that Edomite. He didn't like it. They didn't like each other. So he goes to Herod. What does he say? Recall the interaction with Herod that our Lord has. He didn't say a word. Not one word. Herod's taunting him, probing him. He's curious about this guy he's heard so much about. Do some miracles for me. Here, make a miracle happen. And of course our Lord is looking at him with pity and compassion, but also a certain degree of, I am so not going to engage this. So what does Herod do? He agrees. He's innocent. I can't find anything about this guy. But of course, he's guilty in essence anyway, because he's come this far. So what does he do to him? He puts on this candidate's robe. It's a special white robe that only a king would wear. Do you see the interesting dynamic going on here? Herod is going to send this presumed king back to Pilate dressed as a white robe of a king. You see the mockery here. It was intended to be mockery to our Lord and intended to send a signal to Herod, from Herod to Pilate. Let's have a little fun at this guy's expense. So it's a more abuse. Each and every way as we move along, you must understand something I'll explain in a second about the amount of abuse. So we go to Pilate, and even though he declares him innocent, then the scourging begins. 3 times he declares him innocent. Do you know? 3 times. But he goes ahead and pronounces him guilty. He doesn't even pronounce him guilty. He basically sends him, sits on Golgotha, pronounces the sentence. Because he can't bring himself to even do so. Things now get very, very bad. We must move to the scourging. We've seen and we've heard the stories of the Passion where when the whips, one time the whip missed the area of protection for Jim Caviezel, and the pain that he endured, they couldn't film for the next day from one tip of one edge, not even the metal ball. Let's look carefully at this. It's important to understand this in order to understand on the cross. First of all, what do you notice? The flagrum, which means whip, it's made of leather, and it has placed on it these small, either metal or bone. So when you get it going, they carry the weight, and they swing around, and they hit the areas that you desire. So the prisoner is, of course, with the back exposed. Notice the top view. You have one executioner on the right, one on the left. You notice how their job is to bring the blows across to the opposite side of the back so that you create this pattern from the whip marks. Does everybody see that? It's very important to see that. It wasn't just indiscriminate whips. Now, you know they hit and they struck everywhere. They struck on the legs, the arms, and then, in our Lord's case, they turned him over and would strike him on the front as well. In reference to the shroud, notice that even after thousands of years, from a wrapping that doesn't even come in direct contact in all locations, we can learn a lot from the study of the shroud, which has been done recently, where they've looked at it very carefully through the eyes of crucifixion. You can see in the upper square where the thorns and the crown was. The lower section, you can see the whip marks. This is a posterior view, back view. When the shroud's looked at and magnified, there are literally hundreds upon hundreds of assaults. We can magnify some of the larger wounds. But notice the general direction. They follow these blow patterns. Here's a whip without the balls on the end. Here's the ones with these godforsaken balls. Here's ones with metal clips designed to pull and open the skin out. Notice the crown of thorns. Crown was a cap, went over top of the head. Very important for this. For it encased the entire skull with these very large thorns. Plants still grow in the Middle East. Roman soldiers were very good at using these. This was not unique to our Lord. The Roman soldiers would use them frequently. Crown of thorns can be seen on the shroud. It's maybe hard for you to see back there, perhaps with the light, but you can see across the front and the back very clearly, as well over towards overriding the top. The wounds from the thorns, which are very deep wounds. Also the side wounds. Again, easy to see from the shroud.